what we're seeing in terms of innovation here is the most advanced in the world. And having, again, just spent time, once again, as you noted, with the Nemesis Regiment, which is one of the most advanced of the unmanned systems forces, noting that, of course, Ukraine is one of the few countries in the world that has not just an Army, Navy, and Air Force, it has an unmanned systems force, and so forth, and that there is a procurement system here that produces tomorrow's technology for today's wars, unlike many in the West, which often produce yesterday's technology for tomorrow's wars. And it's really quite breathtaking. But I thought I might actually sort of situate this moment a little bit on where we are in Ukraine, because many of us, I think understandably, were quite concerned in the wake of the Oval Office meeting that obviously didn't go well. There was a lot of apprehension following that. And it occurred to me, again, I've come here many, many times since 2022. I've been sanctioned by Putin and so forth even. But all of a sudden, there's a number of positive developments that I think are starting to accumulate. And there's a degree of even a bit of an upbeat mood, I think, if you reflect on this. The Rome meeting went very well between the two presidents, President Zelensky and President Trump. There's the mineral deal finally got done. There's a $50 million Ukrainian purchase arrangement that has just been sent to the U.S. Congress. There's a $300 million F-16 maintenance and training package that is waiting to go to Congress. Ukraine this year, unlike last year, has plenty of 155 millimeter howitzer rounds, thanks to the U.S. security assistance pipeline being full, what the Czech Republic and other European countries did to help Ukraine and so forth as well. The Europeans have gotten the message. President Trump has done something no other U.S. president did, and I had a front row seat for a lot of these encounters as a 1-star, 3-star, 4-star NATO commander, also with a U.S. dual hat, but the frustrations would pour out from president after president, and nothing ever seemed to be done. And all of a sudden, the Europeans are deadly serious about spending more on defense. More are spending the 2% of GDP on defense than at any other time in the past as well. Germany in particular stepping up. The Zeitenwende really is going to come soon to a theater near us, and that's very, very exciting. The EU is supporting this very substantially as well. Now, all of a sudden, you have the likelihood of increased sanctions on Russia. Before, it was pushing Ukraine to come to the table. Ukraine's come to the table, and now it's very clear that Vladimir Putin is not really seriously interested in negotiating much of anything. And that is huge. And then in a recent session that I just had, analysts laid out for us how the Russian National Welfare Fund could actually run out in 2026. That's their surplus funding. And if that happens, they are in really grave trouble. You will not see the IMF or the World Bank step forward to bail them out. And then Ukrainian forces very much holding the line. Yes, there's incremental gains by the Russians and incredible cost, but they are very much maintaining that line. And that's, of course, where you come to Ukrainian innovation. What Ukraine has done with unmanned systems of all kinds, of cutting edge, again, suicide drones, thousands of them being employed on certain days on the front lines. The no man's land on this battlefield has to be the most lethal in history. Armored systems can't even be used anymore because they get knocked out very quickly by drones, unless it's overcast and the weather is so bad that you can't get the drones up. There are surveillance drones over the battlefield at all times, waiting for the Russians to poke their nose out. And then, of course, the suicide drones descend on them. There are also drones that can launch bomblets, and so forth. There are longer range ones that are going into Russia, many, many dozens of them on a nightly basis, making life much more difficult in the Russian Federation, and repeatedly going after energy, refineries, storage, airfields, and other strategic assets, and so forth. So if you want to ask what the future of war is, and I had a book that was titled From Conflict, the Evolution of Warfare from 1945 to Ukraine. Now we've taken it to Gaza as well. And the final chapter is the future of warfare. just come to Ukraine and you will see the future of warfare. Now, this is a land campaign, not one that is hugely at maritime, like would be, say, perhaps the Indo-Pacific. But even on the sea, the Black Sea, the Ukrainian forces, with no real navy to speak of, have used aerial drones to find the Russian ships and maritime drones to sink them. And 1/3 of the Russian Black Sea fleet now sits on the bottom of the Black Sea, and no Russian ships will come into the Western Black Sea for fear of what might happen to them. And then finally, the most breathtaking of recent achievements is a Ukrainian maritime drone that launched 2 air defense missiles and took out 2 Russian Su-30 frontline fighter bombers. Enormous cost disparity, obviously, between what took them out and what it cost to put them in the air. So again, this is the future of war, increasingly unmanned, remotely piloted, remotely driven. The Ukrainians, of course, conducted the first ever unmanned offensive operation in history, where all the vehicles were remotely driven. There were machine guns that were remotely operated. All the drones in the air, of course, obviously the same. And now you're beginning to see truly autonomous systems, the advent of that, where you're having AI operating the drone rather than a human in the loop.
And we'll touch on those. Thank you very much for that assessment, General Petraeus. And I want to delve into later on in this session about Ukraine's domestic capabilities and how much of this weaponry is coming from abroad, which I'll pick up after our special guest joins us now.
They're making it. I mean, again,
they're making it, right? Yeah, but they could be making more, is the argument.
If they had more money, they'd make more. They did 1.5 million drones last year. They'll do 2.5 million drones this year. Again, no other countries altogether.
They say they have capacity for up to 5 million a year, so I'd like to hear from the Ukrainians in terms of what they need to try and get there. Thank you so much, General Petraeus.